I have played League of Legends probably more than any other activity in my entire life, probably by far. It equates to easily over half my lifespan. Well, not quite, because I'm 26 now and I've been playing the game for 12 years, basically religiously. And over those 12 years, my relationship with the game has basically refined itself to the point where I use League as a way to not only sharpen my mind, but also completely refine my approach and the way of thinking. Obviously, when you start the game, like many of us, I was way younger. I was 14 years old. I was not even a human yet. I was just a child. I was just someone who used it as oh, this is something that's kind of cool, and you just spam games and you just learn, right? But now the way I approach the game is just completely different. And everybody's gone through those phases. I've also used to have times where I was an absolute degenerate, using the game as an escape, just spamming games, thinking about wins and over worrying about things like LP and results and the prospective coolness of, even potentially having this as a career, right? In hindsight, it sounds super cringe, right? And, of course, these are just normal thoughts, and I don't think that's actually really cringe, right? It's part of the culture of that this game kind of promotes, right? And it really wants you to focus on these wins, right? And the point of me making a video like this, and if you've read the title of the video, the message I hope to send from this video is basically to help find a way in a world where we're so focused on productivity and just doing things for being able to progress ourselves, to create this ability to play a game as beautiful as League guilt-free in this world of hustle culture and just being able to enjoy things. But for those productivity obsessed people, I want to create a way where you not only enjoy playing League, but make it a form of productivity and increasing your overall satisfaction with the game and being able to just use it to promote and enhance other areas of your life. It's as crazy as that sounds. I do think your relationship with the game like League can actually really promote this idea. And it's actually a really good way to develop a frame of mind and to build a relationship with yourself and being able to enjoy things as they are, establish your way of thinking, how you react to certain things, and just how you approach a lot of areas of your life. And I think maybe you think, well, gosh, it's just a video game. Why is it that serious? Well, I think it's not about whether the video game itself is something that should be taken that seriously. It's about how your body and your mind reacts to certain things, and how you approach any sort of criteria, right? I do think people get pretty worked up over League, and I think this is, you can say it's just a video game, but obviously people care enough and people want to win. And I think being able to kind of understand your own mind and use it as a way to kind of build that mental Himalaya almost of just centralizing yourself and using it to kind of transcend other areas of your life, work, exercise, building relationships with other people, being able to succeed in life overall. I think how you approach things like this, like League, something simple as that can actually approach that. And I'm going to use some examples that I use in my own life and how I think my relationship with the game has really helped me develop as much as possible as a person, and how it's really helped me really become the best version of myself. And I've probably spent over 20,000 hours playing League, for sure. But now more than ever, I've probably had the most fun playing the game possible. And at the same time, while having this much fun, I'm able to build really strong connections with people, really build a strong relationship with myself, understand my way of thinking. And I'm such a grinder when it comes to real life. But when it comes to a game like League, I love the ability to be able to kind of just switch off and really just enjoy that game, right? And that's the point of this video. So, firstly, League is, I would say, the easiest, most instant, accessible way that you can get into flow state. And the importance of this cannot be understated. I think there's a lot of studies right now. One of my favorite books right now is called Flow by someone named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And he uses that as sort of like a framework for happiness. And, flow referring to the flow state. So being able to be completely engaged in whatever activity you're doing, basically completely locked in. You're not absolutely thinking about anything else at all, right? And this is his argument for happiness in life. The amount of time that you spend in flow. The more time that you spend in a flow state, a true flow state, then the happiness that comes from that exceeds any level of extrinsic rewards like money or fame or anything like that, right? He promotes the idea that more than anything, the ability to just be able to do this activity is in itself the win, right? And I think that is something that how League can easily promote if you try to see it that way, right? And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. So a classic example of this is the culture around failing in League and making mistakes and potentially even losing, right? I no longer play League to win. I actually don't care one bit. I play the game to enjoy the game, the intrinsics of the game, the motions of the game, right? I actually specifically chose, I love the VOD that I actually chose to play over this audio because this is a game where I'm actually not doing very well. I could, of course, cherry pick a VOD where I'm like absolutely shitting on someone and, it would look cool maybe and it would provide better content. But this is a game where I actually struggled a lot. And I actually love that. I struggled a lot. I think my teammates were getting a little bit pissy at me. I probably wasn't playing the lane. I wasn't synced up with my Hui support in this game. I felt like there was a bit of a mismatch, right? And the result was, as a result, I was actually performing pretty poorly, and especially in a matchup where I felt like that I should have much more agency than I did. But because of that, and because my sort of win condition was just understanding the motions of the game and falling in love with like the problems of the game and embracing the failures in the game, I think it helped me overcome that. And it kind of like it transcends your approach to anything in life. And honestly, it sounds crazy just from a game, but like I think it truly does. When you approach something as small as this and you don't worry about the result here, then when you think about something bigger, you kind of see it the same way. You're like, oh, you can't control what happens, right? And I think that's where the frustration happens with a lot of people. They try to control what happens, which is an outcome. But realistically, there's only so much of the outcome you can control realistically, right? With a game like League, there's 10 players, there's so many different factors, there's so much different context, everybody has a different background. But when you reframe your win condition, when you reframe what you're playing the game for, from being to a win to investing, let's say 30 to 40 minutes in different sessions to study the game and engage with the game and understand, problem solve for 30 to 40 minutes. When I think of it that way, and that's what happens when I queue up now, the game is so much more fun and so much more interesting. And there's so many different mechanics and nuances to the game that like the beauty of the game really reveals itself as you lean into it and as you focus on that instead of winning or losing. When I ask someone if they play League and I want to play with them, I don't care and I don't ask what rank you are or how good you are, because I care about how you see the game and what excites you about the game, right? Whenever you play for LP and when you play for win-loss, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, it really sucks the fun out of the game. I want to know, like, why you like the game. Like, and the flow theory from this book promotes this idea because there was a small bit where it says when you focus on your opponent instead of the activity itself, it kind of defeats the whole purpose. It can detract from flow. And that's probably why it doesn't feel that sort of rewarding to play the game. And I think that's usually what it is. I think it's a mindset thing. And when you reframe it to just enjoy the game, it sounds so simple. You just enjoy the game. It's like, whoa, I'm having so much fun now. The mechanics and being able to think about like what's the best decision here and being able to use your brain to kind of think about like what's the best solution for me given this situation. You're like, whoa, this is so cool, right? And I like to use that sort of mindset literally in everything in my life, right? Making financial decisions, making decisions on the job, how should I approach this situation with my friends? There's so many different ways you can kind of transcend this beyond just that, right? And it's if anything's a lovely thing that League has taught me is that there's two metrics for any decision. One of them is how well you execute the decision, and the other one is whether it was the right decision in the first place. And because I learned this from something like League, I actually use this in my decision making in general, because there's a lot of cases, for example, of very, very talented people that, they can execute let's say a career choice. They're so good at whatever career they choose, right? And they can be the absolute god. You can work hard and you can really grind for X outcome, right? But was it the right, did you invest your effort in the right thing in the first place? It will never be fruitful if the decision was never right in the first place, no matter how hard you try and how hard you execute it. That's something League has taught me. Same with the flow thing, enjoying the immediate moment, being able to just engage in whatever activity you're doing, right? I'm just eating food. Yo, this food is busting, bro. How does this food taste? How does it feel when I pick up the food? Or when I, go outside and just sit in the cafe, engage in the environment. How does it feel? What are the vibes, right? And whenever you lean into that, you notice that like it's so much more enjoyable, and you just enjoy everything, right? When you're focused on win-loss, you're very outcome focused. I go to a cafe. Well, why am I here? I'm here to consume fluids or eat food, right? Because fundamentally I need sustenance. That's not a really cool way to think about things, right? You want to enjoy the thing for itself, right? Why live when eventually you're gonna die, or basically, or why do anything when you're just thinking about win loss, right? The point of why people do things is to enjoy them, and I think when you can do that in a game like League, you can do that in anything. And of course, you don't need to do that in League, but I think for me, I'm just sharing that I think the League sets the baseline for me, and on a consistent basis, right? I also think not everyone does this, but I think for me, it helps create internal feedback systems for myself and learning to make adjustments and responding to failure, right? Like, oh, okay, so like this went south, right? What happened here, right? Some people are going to immediately blame others, and that's very common, right? Because it's a very team-based game. The culture does this, right? It's very normal. I don't blame you if you feel that way sometimes. And sometimes genuinely, it is someone else's fault, and that's totally chill. But honestly, I don't care whose fault it is, right? Because the way I see it is I'm just seeing the problem that the game has presented and like the outcome. And they're like, okay, so like, why did this happen? And what could I do in order to adjust, right? And that's the fun out of it. Like, oh, what's my agency here? What adjustments can I make in order to avoid this situation in the future? Oh, that's interesting how this matchup played out. Can I adjust something so that this matchup plays out differently when I run it back again? Right? I love that. Of course, League is a social game. I wanted to talk about that too, right? This is very contingent on the people you play with, but I think in the right environment, League can promote a really great, accessible form of fun. And, you can access them from anywhere, from your computer at home. You get to talk to people, you get to engage with them in flow together, and you get to work together on something, right? And I believe in another book, I believe it's Ray Dalio's Principles. The two things that promote happiness the most are being able to get better at something. So in this case, League of Legends as a skill, and building relationships with people, which is in this case, being able to engage in the game with other people in a healthy way, in my opinion. And I think when approached correctly, League can achieve both of these things at once. And it's so beautiful that you can do that in something so accessible and so popular and free. Of course, this takes the right kind of people. It's a very, very rare trait out of League players, right? But if you try to, I like to think that you can set this tone, and I think you can bring the best out of people if you see it this way. And that's the point of a video like this, right? I want people to see it this way, and I want to promote awareness of something like that. And I think this is something that the League of Legends culture is currently missing. Not even League of Legends, just a lot of culture, like esports culture, just culture and a lot of activities in life. And I think, it's so funny. I think making this video is kind of funny because like, how can you get so philosophical over something like League, right? But this is genuinely the way I see it, and I just wanted to share that with people. And maybe there's like one person out there that like can kind of see it the same way. But I'd be so down if you're that one person, and like you kind of see what I mean, and you're like, you know what, Quatch, you might be onto something here. You might be cooking actually, and if someone can see it that way, and I can change your opinion on like how you approach the game, then I'd be happy with that, right? Overall, I think League, you can promote this like kind of line of thinking and framework that you can apply to all aspects of your life. And this is why I continue to use the game as this sort of vehicle for that in my life everywhere. And I continue to play it without any sort of regret or, completely guilt-free. And I think being able to tap into the level of knowledge and the beauty of the game and just really appreciate it, it not only allows you to think better, it allows you to perform better, and also allows you to enjoy everything in that process. Like, you just win. Like, you literally just win. Like, it's not winning in terms of LP, it's just, you just win. Because like when you frame it that way, how can you not enjoy the activity? And if you enjoy the activity, is that really a loss? Like, even if you lose LP, like if you enjoyed your time, like who cares? I think you win either way. Sometimes, I'm not sure if you've ever had those games where you're like, I lost, but that was like a banger. Like, that was so fun. Like, I think that's what you're supposed to achieve and feel like every time when you play League, right? And that's why building this relationship with the game helps me kind of like build a relationship with myself. And that's why I continue, year 12, year 13. I started the game in 2012. It's 2025 as of the time of this video. And I think this is why I still continue to enjoy every hour I spend playing this game. So hopefully this makes sense and I could like at least influence you a little bit in terms of like why League could be potentially a cool way of just like building a framework for your life and kind of like honing your mind a little bit. And, I would love to hear your thoughts on it if anybody has any. But yeah, I think that's basically my current approach to the game. And I hope that you kind of, if you've made it this far, I really hope that you kind of internalize it and use it to kind of build your own sort of framework, right? It could not look like this, but I want to use this as an inspiration for you. So yeah, hopefully this makes sense. And I hope you guys have a good day. Thanks for listening.